All right, today we're pulling back the curtain on the real magic inside your computer. We're going to talk about the CPU, the Central Processing Unit, but not in the way you might think. We're going to imagine it as a master chef running a crazy high-tech kitchen. So, let's get cooking.
It's one of those questions that feels almost impossibly big, right? Our computers do billions of things a second, but what is actually going on in there? How does this little piece of silicon make any sense of our commands at all?
Well, here's how we're going to wrap our heads around it. Just picture your CPU not as some cold, calculating chip, but as an incredibly fast and precise chef. And the programs you run, they're just recipes. This chef follows them step by step, but at a speed that is just, well, it's mind-boggling. This CPU chef is going to be our guide for today. Okay, so let's push open the doors and step inside the CPU's kitchen. And just like any top-tier kitchen, it's not a one-person show. Oh no, there's a whole crew, a team of specialists, and every single one of them has a very, very specific job to do. First up, you've got the control unit, or the CU. This is the head chef, the one calling the shots. Now, the CU doesn't do the actual math or the logic, but it reads the recipe, the instructions, and tells everyone else what to do. It's the manager making sure all the ingredients, which is our data, get to the right place at exactly the right time. Next, say hello to the Arithmetic Logic Unit, the ALU. This is the kitchen's powerhouse. Think of it as a super-fast calculator that also handles all the logical questions. So anytime the recipe says, add these two numbers or check if this is greater than that, the head chef, the control unit, hands that job straight to the ALU. So, with a recipe that could be millions of lines long, how does our chef keep their place? That's where the program counter, or PC, comes in. You can think of it as a bookmark. It doesn't hold the instruction itself, it just holds the address, constantly pointing to the very next step in the recipe. It makes sure the chef never gets lost.
And finally, we've got the instruction register, or IR. Now, if the program counter is the bookmark for what's coming up next, the instruction register holds the step the chef is working on right now. It's that single line of the recipe that has the chef's 100% undivided attention.
So we've met the crew, we know who's in the kitchen, now let's actually watch them cook. The entire complex process of how a computer thinks really just boils down to a simple, repeating, three-step rhythm. This is the heartbeat of the kitchen. And this is it, the famous fetch, decode, execute cycle. The chef fetches the next step from the recipe book, decodes it to figure out what on earth it means, and then executes it. That's the whole dance. Fetch, decode, execute. Over and over and over again. Billions of times every single second. To make this all feel a bit more real, let's watch the crew handle one specific type of instruction, a load instruction. All this really means is, hey, go to the pantry, find this specific ingredient, and bring it over to the main countertop. Simple as that. Okay, I know, this looks like a lot, but let's stick with our chef. Here we go. In step 1, the chef looks at the program counter, the recipe book, to see where the next step is. Then in steps 2 and 3, they fetch that instruction. And notice this is huge. The second they've got the instruction, the bookmark, the PC immediately jumps to the next line. It's already getting ready for the future. Then our head chef decodes it, realizes it's in order to grab an ingredient, the number 150, from the pantry. Steps 4 and 5, they go to the right shelf and grab it. And finally, step 6, they execute the order. They place that ingredient, the number 150, onto their main workspace, the accumulator. And just like that, the job is done. The ingredient has been fetched.
Now, that whole process brings up a really important question. Where exactly is this pantry? See, memory is absolutely central to how a CPU works. But here's the thing, not all memory is the same. Where the ingredients are stored, well, it matters a lot.
And this gets to one of the most important ideas for performance. Registers, like that accumulator workspace we just saw, are tiny little storage spots right inside the CPU. They're like the chef's personal spice rack, right there at arm's length. Main memory, your RAM, is outside the CPU. To get something from there, the chef has to walk all the way across the kitchen, which is way, way slower. That's why keeping the most used ingredients in those registers is so critical for speed.
So let's talk a little more about that pantry. It's really split into two types. You've got volatile memory, like your RAM. Think of this as the chef's refrigerator. It's great for quickly grabbing ingredients you're using right now. But the moment the power goes out, everything inside spoils. It's all gone. Then you have non-volatile memory, like your hard drive or SSD. That's the long-term dry storage pantry. Everything in there is safe and sound even with no power. And you know what?
Even inside the refrigerator, there are differences. Most of your computer's RAM is something called DRAM, dynamic RAM. It's pretty cheap and you can pack a lot of it in. But there's also a much faster, much more expensive type called SRAM, or static RAM. This stuff is used for something called cache memory, which is like a tiny VIP mini fridge right next to the chef, holding only the ingredients they use all the time for maximum speed.
So all this talk about memory leads to a really interesting question. We hear about computers having 8 gigs of RAM, or 16, or 32, but what actually sets that upper limit? How big can the pantry possibly be?
And the answer comes down to one of those crew members we met earlier, the memory address register. Remember, this is what holds the address of the ingredient the chef is looking for. So the size of this register, how many bits it can hold, directly limits how many unique addresses it can possibly point to, and that limit gives us a very specific number.
65,536. Okay, so why that number? What's so special about it?
Well, that number is what you get when you have a 16-bit memory address register. The math is actually pretty simple. It's just 2 to the power of 16. That gives you 65,536 unique spots in the pantry. Now, by comparison, a modern 64-bit CPU, well, that allows for an astronomical number of addresses. The MAR literally draws the map of the CPU's entire world.
Okay, so far our chef has been very methodical, right? Finishing one step completely before even starting the next one. But that's not how modern high-performance kitchens work. To be truly fast, you have to multitask. So for our final section, let's see how they really pull it off.
The technique that makes this all possible is called pipelining. This is the real secret sauce to modern CPU speed. Instead of doing just one thing at a time, the CPU basically creates an assembly line for its instructions, letting the different stages of the fetch, decode, execute cycle all happen in parallel. And this is what that assembly line looks like in action. At the very same tick of the clock, 3 different instructions are all in motion. While the chef is executing the first instruction, they are also decoding the second instruction, and at the same time, they are fetching the third one. It's this perfectly timed, highly efficient dance.
The result of all this is a huge increase in what we call throughput. Now, a single instruction might still take, say, 3 clock cycles to get all the way through the line. But once that pipeline is full and running, the CPU is spitting out one finished instruction every single clock cycle. It is an absolute game changer for performance. So we've seen our CPU chef follow a recipe, manage a whole kitchen crew, organize a massive memory pantry, and even run a hyper-efficient assembly line. It's a powerful way to really get a feel for what's happening under the hood. Which kind of leaves us with one final thought. If an assembly line makes our chef this much faster, what other incredible tricks have engineers come up with to push the boundaries of cooking and computing even further?